Admiral, the commander of the Reliant is signaling. He wishes to discuss terms of our surrender.
Put it on screen. Do it! While we still have time.
On screen, sir.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie.
Well, we're back with another damn video. No, this is not a little Chinese rice farming hat. This is the sausage section. So right now I want to discuss the beginning phases of this part of the build. Mainly the modifications just on this piece alone. Not talking about the edges and the sensor bands and all the other bullshit. I want to talk about just what is on here, what my plan is. So we'll start from the bridge area. Just about everybody knows, everybody who does these things, they all do the same thing, because the placement of the bridge on here is, you're a came back for your return. I swear you're a zombie motherfucker. I've already killed you like 5 times, and here you, oh, you, god damn, you little mother. Can't even start this video without you. Go to the welfare office and get a check and, I don't know, get a job. Leave me the f alone. All right, so back to the bridge. We have to actually we have to get rid of all this. This is what the bridge actually sits on. This for basically this is what gives it its gap for the lights. But of course, once we get rid of that, we're not going to have, you know, the gap for the lights here. So we're going to have to recreate on the bridge. But we'll cross that burning bridge when we burn that to the ground. But we still have to get rid of this anyway. So we'll be grinding this down and then working outwards. Got to also deal with is a common thing that most people do with their builds, because the other thing that is inaccurate with this kit is the phaser banks. Other than the nubs, the actual rectangle part itself is supposed to be pretty much flush with the saucer. Well, these are raised, so we have to grind them down flush and kind of remake these nubs, and that's how we fix the phaser banks. Now spreading outwards to the edge. As far as the RCS thrusters go, these light in here, that's correct. But the navigational lights on here, I don't know if you see it. Yes, you can. The little nub on the top, and it goes from here, 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 here. They're raised. They are also not supposed to be raised. They are supposed to be flush. So we also have to take them down flat. So that's pretty much the mods to do on this thing. So we'll just start from the middle out. What I want to do is here, just to be safe, is that there is some fine detail on the front of the bridge here. I think I want to protect it just in case of, well, I don't want to accidentally file them down. So I'll just go ahead and, you know, slap some tape just to protect it. So that way I don't have to try to recreate that. As far as in the middle, I could give a And to speed things along, just use my little wannabe Dremel. Oh, by the way, I'm using something with a flat part on the top. You can go ahead and do it this way if you want. The reason why I prefer to do it this way, even though sometimes it kicks, when you're doing with a curve here, you can accidentally swoop and dig in. This way I can just press down on it. And that's all I need to grind that down. The rest is pretty much done from sandpaper. I'm going to start using with like 120 just to get it even closer. Just had a little chunk of the plastic nub in my mouth. I mean, yes, you're sure you can do all this by hand without using it like a Dremel tool or whatever, or fine grit sandpaper, but by the end, you'll be going to the doctor's office twice, asking, why do you now have carpal tunnel syndrome? Believe me, I know. I had carpal tunnel, and I don't want to have it again. I'm not really worried about this yet, at least, until it's time for like placing the bridge. All right, now that's good and done. I'm gonna start sanding down with, I don't need a block for this one, with 320, just to kind of make it a little bit smoother from all the sand and scratches. And I could still barely see where it was, so obviously it needs more. I'm not trying to go too pretty just because we're in the beginning phases of this. A little coming back. I think I'm pretty close. I'm going to pull up my tape because I want to make sure that I'm not sanding too much tape away and encroaching the detail. So if I have to, I'll just put more tape back on. Yeah, I was getting close there, so I'm just going to eyeball a little bit. That way I can see what I'm doing. I can see the remaining detail. I know to stay away from it. So what I'm looking at here is I'm like looking at the sheen in the light. If there's still like a shiny spot where the detail is, like that means you still have a high spot. You didn't sand down all the way, because that low spot is an unsanded plain plastic spot. But if you do lose a little detail, just try to keep an eye on it. You may just scribe it back out early. What I've been obviously been intending on doing. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I still have plenty of my detail left on the edge. So now I'm going to demonstrate the phaser. Now, other people I've noticed will tend to just go ahead and do it like as is, just start going at it. It's fine if you want to do it that way, that's cool. But what I kind of came up with is to get rid of like 90% of the phaser bank. And what I mean about that is I want to actually, yes, it is raised and it's supposed to be flush, but I want to leave just a little bit of it. And I'll explain why. Well, I won't explain why. I'll show you why at the end. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to tape, just like I did up here, exactly around the phaser bank. And a good thing you should also do too is, I did by have it off camera, is that I made one of these, I pulled it up, so it kept the outline, and I set it aside, just in case if I need it as a template, because all of them on the saucer are going to be the same. So it just helps, just in case if you you lose it and you need an exact size, you have that as a go-to. But now I'm going to go ahead and remove the nubs with this, just to make it easier, just like that. And now I'm going to take it down to 120. And the good reason why I'm leaving the tape on here is because there's all these panel lines right here, and I don't want to remove some of the panel lines and have a bunch of deep scratches and more body work I got to do. So I just only want to deal with the phaser. So right now I'm using 120, just really to quickly, just to get it down faster. You'll know it's like when you basically feel it, it's almost flush. Then again with the 320, and it's good to go this way and this way. Switch it up. And as far as how I can tell how deep I can go is, in the middle of the phaser, the panel line that goes right through the middle is there. And I can see some of the blue tape dust that's in it, so that means that panel line is still kind of there. I'm going to where just about most of it is gone. And what I mean by most of it is only a little bit of the blue tape dust can sit in it, but not much. Okay, I'm liking that, so peel away my tape. Now it's pretty much, I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty much gone. I mean, it's like, yes, it is still raised, but it's like such a hair that by the time when you start layering your paints on it, it's almost going to disappear, but it gives it enough depth that you can actually kind of see it and make it out. And it does give it like its own entity, and I really kind of like that. Honestly, the fully raised is just too much, and for something at this scale, it's kind of low. And what I'm doing right now is I'm using a pin vise just to get like a little hole started, not all the way through, but just started on where the phaser banks were. That way it tells me later on where to put whatever I decide to use to replace my nubs, probably solar res, so it gives it something to sit into, but it just kind of gives it a mark. And I'm just eyeballing it. If you're not really sure, just draw an X between the panel line and the corners and with a ruler, and it'll give you your dead center per square. But it should, I hope I can see it. Let me put my finger on it so I can see my lines. It gives it something there, but it's also kind of gone. So with that, that's also the same method on which I'll demonstrate here, because we got to make these flush, is to bring that down. This, I don't think I really need to use, the Dremel tool. I don't even think I need the 120. I'm just going to go with 320. And the tape is just really to protect much of the saucer grid panel lines as possible. Because they kind of play important when you start doing the Aztecing too. And once you start noticing you're actually now sanding away your tape, it's probably a good time to actually either probably stop there or just do like careful fine detail sanding if there's a little bit left, but just where you're not going to screw up the panel line. And it should look like that. So that's pretty much what, other than I got to do the rest of them, but that's how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to take care of that, and then I think next we'll probably start dealing with, you know, all these things. So now we're going to go ahead and start putting on these pieces that are the rim of the saucer section. Each piece is actually has a number that's marked in it. In other words, this one is number 6, next one will be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the corresponding number is also marked on the saucer itself, so you know where each one of them goes. So I'm starting from this way, the lowest number, to the highest. But also what we got to do is we got to make room out of this edge for, you know, our lighting. So the first thing to do is you need to get the first piece that I want to work with. At least I know that for the rec deck it's already kind of open, so there ain't really nothing I got to do to that one. So the next one, I'm going to have to look at it and make a mark on where we're moving material from. So I have a light there, so we'll go from here to here. That's for that one. And then for the next band, same thing. And then the next band. So on. So forth. Something went weird here. Oh, that's right. I must have skipped a band, but okay. Why do I have number 11, but yet oh yeah, because 10 is marked. Ah. Okay. Always go with your gut feeling. If something seems weird, double check what you're doing. And 13. All right. The other thing I want to make sure is about my RCS thrusters, that I can also do them. But what think I'm just going to do is, I could probably remove it at the time. I kind of almost want to keep the little wall in because it gives it a little bit, it gives it something, you know, it's like a light box itself. After all, I can always put a little, just drill a hole into it, or I could just hog it afterwards. So that's what I'll do for that. But as far as going down, I think what I'll do is just start removing this material. I'll go ahead and use my Dremel. And do my end piece over here so I know where to stop. Okay. Going too much here. Now I could go ahead and use my die air grinder out of my air compressor, which will do this lickety split, but I don't feel like going all the way back there firing that loud thing up, and you know, so it's not worth it. I'll just do it this. Now if you had a pancake air compressor, that's a different story, but I got a big giant 60-gallon, take forever to fill up, and it's loud. Obviously you've seen my videos of me spraying within my guitar builds. I think you understand. One thing I noticed you have to deal with is because you lose these two little notches where you can actually set, that helps keep the piece in line. You kind of lose that. So as you're gluing in, you're just going to have to really watch it. So what I think I'll do is I'll just start by getting a couple of these done. Then I'll put a few pieces in and just kind of work my way around. And we'll go from there. So let me get a few of these done and I'll be right back and we'll start working with this. Or I may even just go ahead and hog all these out and we'll just start gluing them in. Yeah, I'll just do with that. Okay, so get ready for these things. All right, notched out for the windows. Now it's time to actually start putting down some glue, starting with piece number 6. Piece number 6. Throw down some tape as I go. Nothing really too much to say about this, other than just want to take it one section at a time. Make sure I grab number 7. And I'm kind of seeing a little bit of, well, I could deal with that afterwards. I was gonna say, hey, I'm gonna be burying my RCS thruster light, but I can already see a way to get to it. For me, I'm not worried. And of course, where you lost the window, oh, it was upside down probably. My bad. Just want to make sure it's lined up as I go. Especially where the window is, because there is nothing really to hold it where the light, where the openings are anymore. And you can never have too much tape either, just letting you know. All right, number 8. Goes like that. So you have the right orientation as well. And I can tell some of you are probably saying, already like going, why ain't you making the openings for your RCS thruster lights and your navigational lights? Well, you know what? Yeah, this is my build. I'm going to do it how I want. See, each little bit as I go, connect, I'm just making sure it's like, doesn't have like really any steps. Flush as possible, because the more I get it lined up, the less body like filling and sanding I have to do. Because one of my main goals is with this, even though we haven't got to that part yet, is about the detail in the sensor bands. A lot of people have a hard time preserving them. I could understand why, I could see why. But I'm gonna do my damnedest to preserve them. Absolute damnedest. All right, piece number 9. Number 9, good. And of course, right now, mono glue is the best glue for this part. Cleanest plastic, and it's glue that melts the plastic into itself. It's basically welding it. Can always go back later and reinforce it. But for now, it's getting it on. Lined up. Number 10. It's also good to make sure your parts are ranged out, so you don't have to like thumb through them a lot to find them. Just trying to make sure I got good pressure, no aggressive steps. Let me move this one a little bit closer. Piece number 11. More junk from the grinding. And a piece of flash on the edge of the little sensor band, but that's no big deal. I can get cleaned up afterwards. That would only really matter when the bottom half gets set in place. I'm actually really liking the alignment. Just going little steps as you go really pays off than just trying to slam it all down all at once. Just build off your end. And of course, with model glue, you have some working time. Unlike CA, where it's like you put it in and like, hey, you gotta go for it. Last piece. Just lining up this gap. Because that will help me in the end. Oh, that piece of tape was too short. Just going around, just making sure some of my tape is tight. And now I have my edge all glued in. So the safest thing to do is put this thing aside and let this thing fully dry. And then I'll go back and, check it out and make sure everything's good. If there's any issues I need to take care of, we'll address it. So, hello there. Well, today, since these are all glued up, got to sit overnight and fully harden. I'm actually quite pleased with it. There is very little step action. Of course, mostly where the ends join together. Most of them are pretty good, especially along the rim of the saucer. There's a couple little spots that have to be addressed, but I think everybody's build's the same way. To me, as far as these go, I am hell-bent on really trying to protect these sensor bands as much as possible. That's kind of like almost a lost cause, but I am going to try. So if you're going to protect it, the first thing you got to do is you're going to have to protect it from the beginning all the way to almost the end. Looking at the sensor bands on it, hard to see, but there are two different sizes. The middle one is fatter than the top and the bottom. So I have me a couple fine line rolls of tape. My fineness is about a 1/16, and my next one up is an 1/8. So I'm going to do the tedious task of taping up all these sensor bands. So now I have all my sensor bands all masked off. Little tip for you guys: if you're not really experienced on using like really fine line tape, there's basically two kinds out there. You have basically this kind, which is nothing more than a paper masking tape. So you have to kind of treat it like masking tape. It doesn't stretch all that great. You can use it to make weird curves, but it's a little more difficult. The other kind is like a vinyl fine line tape. That is much better for stretching and pulling curves. The vinyl kind is a little bit more expensive, but it's great stuff. So don't get me wrong. But this stuff is just as good, as long as you just don't try to pull it too tight. So keep it loose. And when doing something like this amount and trying to keep it straight, just do small pieces at a time. I did it about every 6 inches. And just, you know, just like the same way as I glue these up, start at an end, straighten it up, push it down, straighten up, push it down, straighten up, push it down, and just keep going that way. So that's my tip on how to use these. So now let's get back to this. Obviously the seams I want to take care of are from the pieces that go in this way. Oh, and I also just want to show you for where the airlock is on the side, the one side of the saucer, I masked that off inside just because there's going to be a photo etch piece in there and all kinds of other stuff. There's another piece that's probably going to go in there too. I don't want to bury it with too much material, so I just went ahead and protected that right now, just because I'm there. So back at it, I want to deal with the seams that connect each piece together, not necessarily the actual saucer edge, but just really this piece in its own. So with that, you got to kind of have to decide on what you want to do. And the reason why I say is because usually what you're gonna have two types of gaps you're gonna deal with. You're gonna have the gap, any type of gap from it being a seam going this way, and then you also can have step issues from going up and down. So you're gonna have to kind of decide which one you want to deal with first. I'm gonna deal with any type of step issues first before I go on to any type of other gap issues. And the reason why that is because the gap issues, I'm going to have to deal with it with the sensor band itself. And I'll kind of show you how I'll deal with that. But first, let's just deal with any type of gap issues. Or actually any step issues. So you're going to kind of have to go around, and you're going to have to remove some of the tape anyways if you're going to deal with that. Over here, you don't really have to do much with it because, well, you have an opening here, and this gap inside here ain't going to matter. It gets buried, and the masking tape covers the sensor band issue, so you can skip that one. But over here, I have a step. So it's very slight because I did a pretty good job on, you know, gluing as I go and getting it set in place. But I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to put it on the edge of the high spot and leave the low spot bare. Basically, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to wrap in with some putty up to it. I don't want to like go up and over this because then I'm just adding material that is all going to go away. So like I said, I'm going to initially make a ramp, and then when we get down towards the end, then we could just start tying it together by just removing this tape and just making it flush. So you have to go around and you're going to have to feel which side has a ramp. This one is even so slightly, I have to like feel it a few times just to make sure, but it's again on this side. This one is even less than that. It's like I almost don't even need to do anything. I could probably just sand it down, but I'll deal with it anyways, just to be safe. The pattern I'm kind of seeing going on here is it's like kind of high in the same direction as all the others, so it's probably a movement thing. Here. So basically the putty work on here is going to be on the flat part of the bands and not on the ribbed part. And you got that one over there. Forgot this one. Okay. So I got my areas I need to mask off, so I want to make sure I have my putty ready. And this round I'm just going to go ahead and kind of like put it on, I want to say dry. What I mean by dry is not using any damp water to flan it a little bit, because I'll do that if I need to touch it up. This way, like I said, I'm just kind of building a ramp. And my sensor band is already all protected, so I'm not worried about material. Kind of being a little bit generous. This can almost be like artwork, really. I don't mind adding extra putty in some cases, just because that way I don't have to go back at it twice. But it's okay to go back at it twice if need be. All right, now, save me a little bit of a headache. I'm going to carefully remove the blue tape. That way, when it comes time to sand it, I know what I'm ramping to instead of extra freaking putty, and you start getting like a hump. You know what I mean? If you're trying to ramp something and you got a step like this, you want to go like this and straight off that. But if you're going up and over, now you got to deal with, so you got more work to deal with. So it'd be easier if you have something to plane to than an excess hump. Kind of works that same way in doing, body work too. So, but it's okay to have the excess putty on your ramping than the other crap that you're trying to work with. I hope you understand what the fuck I'm trying to say, because sometimes I don't. So now I have to let all this dry, and then when all that dries, we just start doing our sanding. So now it's time for one of the tedious bits, and that's sanding all this down. So basically it's just, I'd go light just because of the masking tape. And I'm using 320 for this. Now there's a chance you'll break the tape, but it's okay. Just be careful with it and come back and reapply some more. At least that's what I'll probably end up doing if I'm trying to preserve this sensor band as much as I possibly can. Like I already saw some of that tape already kind of want to peel away. This is not my most comfortable position on sanding. I'm just doing this way just to show all of you how I do it. See, I got to, if you can see, you see the hard line there? It's not even you can hardly even feel it. But over here, I just gotta like kind of feather that down a little bit better so it's a good transition. Tape kind of went away, so I gotta be careful. And just go ahead and reapply a little bit of that. Like I said, I don't want to lose my sensor band. Clean out some dust from it. Might as well fix that one up too. Like I said, it's going to happen when you're sanding on tape. Then you're trying to find the end of this. I'm gonna have to put it this way so I can see it. It came off a little bit. A little curl there. Okay. Fix that one. Now back to the sanding. Now I'm just kind of like hardly putting any pressure on it. Sometimes you'll probably find like a little hairline low spot, like there's not enough. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but like a little bit right there. That I just apply a little bit more later. But the majority of it is pretty much gone. So it's basically now I gotta do all of it. So
Beer.
you're gonna have to deal with it.
Stupid time lapse. Yikes! And away!
So now all it really needs is like some really fine putty work, more like gotta have to like water down the perfect plastic putty, and then that should dry quick, and then a little bit of fine sanding again, and that would probably be basically almost it for probably the major part of the seam work. But of course we'll see as we continue on. So I previously did just a second round of puttying with using the plastic Putty Perfect, and with a damp little cloth and with waters, kind of like made it very, very fine, so to go into a little tighter places and spread it out a little bit more. I'm liking how it's turned out. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is actually pull off all this tape again, and then need to check on the seam work, any gaps that's in the sensor band part. But also while we're here, if you notice, like on mine, I don't really have too much of a step problem as where the saucer meets the bands, except for like right here where the band is actually, well, some people like to say proud. Proud's another word for happy. This doesn't make me happy. So either way, it's raised a little bit. So to do that, I'm just going to take another piece of tape, put it all along that part of the band, like so. Add some more putty. And it's only a small area just on this one. So I'm just going to lay it on there, somewhat thick. Kind of pushing it towards the edge of my tape. So it's something like that. So I'll let that dry, and then we'll sand that. But what I want to do right now also is gently pull the tape away so it leaves that hard line. All right, so if you see it, there's a hard line right there that's left over. So I'm gonna let that dry. We'll fix that one and pull off all that tape and inspect it and go from there. A little touch up on it. The whole idea of putting the tape right on the edge, it just gives it like a little bit of a lip, so it doesn't make the sensor band disappear. You're not burying it. You're not making it totally flush because you're not kind of supposed to. I'm rounding off the edge of the saucer. Now there is a little bit that went over onto the band. It's gonna be kind of hard to see if I showed you. So you're just literally gonna have to clean it out, which I'll do right here. Trying to get a good visual of it. I think this is fine right here. Pay attention to the details. And then just a light little sand. There. If you can see it. Well, that's what we have there. Okay. The other thing I want to actually kind of describe and do is something I kind of learned on my own here, is how to actually use the perfect plastic putty in the sensor bands. Basically what I need to do is just get a capful, like a capful of water, some type of small bristle paintbrush, and your putty, and a very small amount. So find your sensor band and just apply a little bit onto the seam area. Now wet the paintbrush and just kind of spread it down into the groove. Sometimes you can add a little bit more if need be. especially while it's kind of wet, it kind of helps it a little bit. In this case, it just kind of thins it out a little bit. And that's basically to take care of any of the gap that's like on the front of it. Yeah, a little bit for this meets that, and this meets that. This part's gonna actually takes a little bit of practice. And don't press too hard on your paintbrush, just lightly, very lightly. Need a little bit more. This one up here. And I'm not also worried about getting any in the holes for the RCF thrusters. I can just dig that out with my little dental pick or whatever you got. Just don't forget about it. Now, it's not going to get it too perfect. This just allows it to not like destroy the putty in the band itself because it's so fine, but allows it to get to fill in between the seam here. Now, you don't exactly have to do this step. It's not really that necessary. Got a little extra on my finger, might as well doing this one. Should really only do it if it's necessary. And yes, we have to go back and sand again a little, but it'll be just so light. And that's all she wrote for that. This shouldn't take too long to dry because it's actually very thinned out. But that kind of takes care of like any gappage you may have in between on the sensor band part and the little grooves, and yet the bristles of the brush, you know, cleans out, you know, the rib detail still. Even though there still is like where you still have a step on it, it's still going to be a little bit difficult to deal with, but there's still more steps ahead that will kind of make it go away. In theory, it should, because one of the next steps as far as the sensor band goes is when actually the bottom part of the saucer is attached. We're going to go ahead and remask all the sensor band detail, and we're actually going to do like a spray fill on it, so the flat spot will actually be more pronounced. And then, you know, there's all the paint work and stuff too that will, you know, kind of help ramp that a little bit. Only because it is really hard to try to do that. I mean, you can ramp it and just take your hobby knife and just carefully, microscopically, you know, make your own little grooves, which is a lot of work, you know, so you can go that route. But the next thing we got to do now is, because we're still dealing with putty and all that other stuff, is want to put in the photo etch part for the window. So I need to get me a sharp pair of scissors. See, this is something to do while this stuff is drying before I can just do a light sand off camera. So, if you look at it, the photo etch kind of overhangs a lot. Well, overhang is kind of good. There's a couple ways you could do this. You could like, you know, kind of file out where you could just have the whole thing sit in. But I think that takes more putty work and you got to be absolutely perfect. So I think one of the better ways is to kind of go half and half of this, because this thing would fit perfect onto the edge, but that's kind of like too much. So what I'm going to do is just remove about half of this detail, and then another half. Now the other thing too, I'm just noticing right now when you cut it, the photo etch wants to curl, so going to have to manipulate that back into shape. Now also is a smart thing to do is kind of round the corners a little bit. There you go. So I'm going to line it up kind of like exactly where I want, and I'm going to kind of make a little scribe mark. Because we're going to have to file and trim away some of this. Alright. So I'm going to go bold. The safer way is just to grab file, which I am going to go the safe way. There's no need to go that crazy. I was going to go ahead and Dremel it out, but obviously now I only need to take off just a hair on each side. So we'll just file that. Do this side. Got more to go. My little round one, bring that up. Okay. Do a test fit. You know you got it when it actually sits inside. If you don't got it, you got more work to do, which I don't got it, so I got more work to do. Don't really want to be lazy. And we'll just put it on top and ramp it out. That. It's supposed to fall kind of in the window, but not in the window. It needs a little bit more on this side. All right, I think we're there. So now, grab some masking tape. Yeah, clean out my corner. Try it again. Try that. Sure, I'm holding on to the back end of it so I don't push it all out. Right, and I could see through the tape, through the light, that I am centered. Just want to make sure I am happy. Needs a little bit more persuasion here. Because it's not flush on the bottom part of it. Come on. Just going to peel back just over here because I just want to see something. Yeah, just as I thought. It's still not quite right. So I'm going to just gently push it out. It's almost like this part is too fat. Still not happy with that lip on the bottom. Trying to be very careful because this is a thin piece. I don't want to start having it bent way too many times. I mean, yeah, I can always flatten it out a little bit more like I'm doing right here. Probably be better if I just tape it a different way. Yeah, I think that was kind of my problem. Using the tape to make a flush wall, but the lip of this thing is kind of unique, so it doesn't allow it to sit correctly. But it looks like it's working now. All right, I am now happy. I'm going to use thin CA for this part. Oh, my cap is all being retarded. There you go. Moment of truth. Of course, it leaked where I didn't want it to. Zippity-doo-dah. All right. Gently take away my tape. Because it seems like I glued my tape. Good. Good. I have a photo etch window that, well, of course, got to clean off some of the excess CA. There's my little knife. All right. Got a little bit of a bend here. It's kind of like you. So I can manipulate that a little bit. There we go. Can't even tell. It's like I got some sanding to do, but I got a photo etch window in there. So some sanding cleanup, and then probably for the photo etch one down here. Okay, so now we're gonna also do the photo etch of the rec deck windows. I was experimenting, and it's actually pretty easy. All you gotta do is just put a piece of tape right over it and cut your little piece out, make sure the nubs are cleaned off, and it will actually fit right in. I already have one already set in because I was going for this test, but so I got the other one ready. So I'm gonna fit that one in. It's basically almost drop in place. Make sure you see what the hell you're doing though. Try to get a good look at it if you can. Because that this one photo etch is basically like a wire. Okay, I see it. I'm happy. CA. This part's a little bit scary only because of it's right next to sensor bands and I'm using thin for this just because of the clear that has to go in it. So I don't want big chunks. So it's basically just let it run and hit it. Hey, carefully pull it up. Good, doesn't look like I have too bad of cleaning up to do. The most of the cleanup is actually on the flat part, which is great. Put my remaining photo etch sheet away. Things getting less and less. So just like on the officers lounge, gotta clean off the bits of CA carefully so I don't pop it out, and then a little bit of sanding just to clean up, and a little putty work. I already got putty in place on here, but it still has some more time to dry, so I'll deal with this and then throw some putty on that, and then hopefully when you see me just clean up both of these. Well, that was a this here was a
Whistle me, Dixie.
even though I used thin CA glue, it sure puddled up and actually made its own windows. So it took a lot more than just, you know, just barely scraping around it. Oh good, it's free. No, actually I had to start making new little holes and start carving and shaping and extremely fine filing. But on the plus side, it's really in there, so I don't have to worry about it. And it's so secured, it's like I don't even see any need for putty on this. If anything, when I do the spray fill, that'll take care of it. As far as the officers lounge goes, I've already went ahead and sanded it. I'm liking it. Just be very careful. These window frames are super thin. I know a lot of other videos don't really show it, but I wouldn't doubt if they bent a couple of them too. So just be careful. You're gonna have to straighten them out somehow with like tweezers or something. I can already see I got a bend on this one, but it goes in. I think I'll be able to fix that when I put the glass in. It'll flatten it back out. But as far as this way, it's not doing anything wavy, thank God. So the only thing really left to do on this thing now is, of course, I still have to fine sand that. I've been monkeying with this instead, so I'll take now it's time to actually modify a little bit on the inside for the RCS thrusters and the navigational lights, which they're actually, where they go is buried in here. What I decided to do is I'm going to actually make a little notch so I could just set an LED right in it. I'll just use my little Dremel cutout tool and use a tip like this. And I'm going to be using 5mm on this one. Tenor Controls instructions provided me with 3mm. honestly, they both work just fine. And I'm going to just save the 3mm for another project. But I have, 5mm lying around, so I'm going to use them up. So I'm going to start. We'll just start with the front navigational one, which goes right here. And the beauty about this is I can just rest it right on here, so it'll pretty much be perfectly centered, and it's kind of in its own little light box too. So that will help with light blocking as well. But of course, I'm probably going to have to light block also on the outside, right where the LEDs go. No big deal on that. Okay, so it's basically just hogging out all the way around. So start what's over here. This one over here. Got a little bit of melted plastic on my thing. Just pull out any little junk. Friction grinding tool. This one could use a little bit more. Here, an RCS thruster. That one, RCS. Now, be another RCS thruster. And gotta make sure you clean out your little pieces in there, because eventually that could also cause blockage of light where you don't want it to go. Just taking a look around. Okay. So I got me little tiny little light boxes, basically. Don't need to do that for these two. It's already easy access right there for him. It was like it was meant to be. So yeah, the next thing now is for me to clean up this underside and get it light blocked. So that way we can start doing our lighting for the upper half of the saucer.